Dr. Doom became the Sorcerer Supreme and is finally about to make his first move to take over the world. Welcome to the Comicstorian Complete Story Series, where we take trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then we read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. If you enjoy these stories, be sure to support the industry and go check them out at your local comic shop. After becoming Sorcerer Supreme, Doom sealed off Latveria from the rest of the world, and Mr. Fantastic has been determined to find a scientific method of stopping Doom's new magical defenses. This is the prelude to the upcoming Marvel event, One World Under Doom, in Fantastic Four, issue number 28 by Ryan North. I hope you enjoy. It's a bright day over the Richards household as Sue sits down on the basement stairs, watching her genius husband continue his work, trying to progress his understanding of magic and taking notes. "Reed, honey, you can't stay down here all day," she tells him, but Reed doesn't look up from his notes. "I'm at an impasse, Sue. I'm unable to progress in my understanding of magic," Reed tells her, ignoring her requests for him to take a break and return to his work later. Reed stands and begins to mix strange potions together, frowning as the results transform into a black sludge. Not an option. Victor Von Doom has secreted himself away in Latveria for months. He's taken huge measures to ensure none of us know what he's doing, Reed tells her, unable to let go of what Doom might be doing. "I know that magic is keeping us out. Ergo, understanding magic may get us in," Reed tells her as he sits back and reads his notes. But Sue has had enough. She reaches down and grabs hold of Reed, stretching his upper torso as she pulls him away from his desk and back upstairs. "You're at an impasse, and I've got an idea. You and I are going to visit a magic night," she tells him as she pulls him through the house and out to the waiting Fantasticar. "You remember the Black Knight? A series of magic guys going to Camelot? Well, the current one is Dane Whitman, and he earned a master's degree in physics before he assumed the mantle. He's another man of science, honey, and he's got magic figured out," Sue explains. Reed finally looks up at her. "You're right. How did you think of him?" Reed asks as they get in the car. Sue shrugs as they begin to drive off. "Honestly, I just searched magic guy who knows science, and he was the first result," Sue admits. Reed nods his head as they drive away from the house. "Fascinating," he mutters. A short time later, the pair find themselves in the home of Dane Whitman, also known as the Black Knight. He greets them with a wave from his black throne. "Ah, Dr. Storm, Dr. Richards, please come in. My apologies for not getting up. The Ebon Siege demands my full attention right now," Dane calls to them as he removes his helmet, a large smile on his face. The pair admire the Black Throne as Dane explains that he melted down the ebony chalice, the ebony crown, and the ebony blade to create it. "I sit on this, and I can see into hidden truths, other times, all sorts of stuff," Dane explains as Reed expresses his disappointment in not being able to use the ebony blade to help in their fight against Doom. "Hey, if you want to slice into Doom's dome, I have some good news for you. There's something even better than my old sword for that," Dane tells him as his smile widens even more. "What you want, my friends, is the Fated Blade," he tells them. Sue raises an eyebrow at the name. "Reed and I aren't that up to date on our magical swords, Dane. Could you?" Sue says, asking him to explain. Dane nods, explaining that the Fated Blade can slice through anything and even cuts the object in time so that it can never be repaired or healed. "Great way to make a door that can never be closed, or a wound," Dane tells them, chopping his hand through the air. But he explains that the sword was lost long ago. "Time of legends. You couldn't find it today even if you wanted to," Dane finishes. Reed sighs and rubs his eyes in frustration. "Dane, perhaps it would be more productive if we discussed physics instead of magic swords nobody can find?" he asks. But Dane laughs and nods, pulling out a piece of paper as Reed asks if he can teach him the practical theory of magic like a physics problem. "Oh, that's easy. Dude, you have trouble with that? Here," Dane says as he hands him the piece of paper. "Ta-da! Magic and physics together at last." Reed stares at the equation for a moment before glancing back at Dane. "Dane, these equations are wildly incorrect. They're practically gibberish," Reed sighs, but Dane keeps smiling. "They are? Dang it. Really thought I had something there," he whispers. Suddenly, Dane has an idea and holds up his hands. Light fills the room as he casts a magical spell. When the light dissipates, Sue and Reed find themselves in a wooden bunker. The ebony siege is now gone, but Dane still stands before them. "There, magic! Welcome, doctors, to 1915, and to the Western Front of World War I," Dane says as he leads them outside. Sue and Reed are shocked to find themselves in a large trench system on the European front. The two begin to worry about the timeline, pointing out that they stand out like sore thumbs. But Dane smiles and motions to a small mirror, showing the two heroes that they actually look like two British soldiers. "See? You're magically possessing two men. Just, borrowing them for a bit," Dane explains. He pushes his hand through the wall, showing the pair that he is intangible. "And I'm here as a ghost that can only see. Fun, right?" Dane says, explaining that he has brought them here so that they can find the faded blade and put it somewhere they can find it in their time. He turns and begins to lead them through the trench. This time, right here, right now, was the best chance anyone ever had of finding the faded blade. After this, it was lost forever. He turns back, explaining that the two officers will be fine once Sue and Reed return to their present, forgetting anything that is done while they are possessed. Reed isn't sure of the plan, but he finally turns to his wife. "There's an opportunity here for us to free Earth from Doom's control," he says softly. She nods. "And it doesn't seem like we're doing any harm as long as we keep a low profile and stay out of history's way," she agrees. The two finally decide that this is their best course of action, and so they set out, Dane explaining the legend of the faded blade and the last place it was ever seen. So Sue and Reed begin their search, using maps that would be lost and finding the last place that the faded blade was seen, buried within the remains of a city that was long since disappeared. But they found the location, and using some metal detectors that Reed was able to cobble together, they find the sword buried in a field. Sue smiles as she pulls the glowing sword from the earth. "Gentlemen, I believe we've found the magical blade we're looking for," she tells them as both Reed and Dane look on in awe. "Amazing work, Doctor! I knew you could do it," Dane cheers, explaining that they now need to put the blade somewhere where they can find it in the present day. But Sue cocks an eyebrow at him. "How does moving the blade help us? Surely now that we know where it is, we could simply return to the present and get it," she says. She stands and points at the Black Knight. "Dane, what's really going on here?" she asks. Dane pauses for a moment, and something seems to flash behind his eyes. "The equations," he whispers. Both Sue and Reed take a step back. "What about them?" Reed asks. Dane suddenly smiles wide and raises his hands, magical power shooting forth and knocking Sue and Reed's spirits from the officers' bodies. "They're nothing, Richards, and so are you! You are nothing!" Dane shouts. Sue and Reed scream as their spirits are knocked into a swirling magical vortex. Reed looks to his wife, pointing out that in the end, Dane almost sounded like Doom, Richards. He almost sounded like Doom. Dr. Doom says as he appears before them, the magical realm swirling all around them. Doom laughs, explaining that he possessed Dane through the Ebony Siege and pushed him into bringing Reed and Sue on their time-traveling quest. Reed and Sue lash out at Doom, but a shield prevents their attacks from landing. There are magical beings who have interest in protecting Earth. You learn of them when you become Sorcerer Supreme. Some think they are safe to move against Doom, so they forged a weapon that could kill me. Doom says, explaining that these beings hid the fated blade somewhere in Earth's past. Doctors, you have been so useful, Doom gloats. He holds up his hand, and the fated blade appears. Sue and Reed watch in horror as the blade suddenly explodes. The one weapon that could hurt me, and now I've destroyed it. It's amusing. I'm almost in your debt, Doom gloats. He holds out his hand, casting another spell and trapping Reed and Sue in tightening bubbles. What are you planning, Victor? Reed demands as the bubbles begin to tighten. Doom ponders for a moment before walking up to the bubbles. Well, I suppose it's best put plainly. Richards, I've taken over the world. I did want you to know that before I killed you. A final gift so that you might truly understand your loss, Doom tells him before turning and walking away. The bubbles begin to tighten more as Sue and Reed shout in fear and pain. But Sue suddenly remembers something. Reed, the equations, she shouts. Reed ponders this and suddenly realizes that the gibberish that Dane handed him was actually his way of fighting against Doom's control. Great Scott, they're words, Reed realizes. He shouts the words, casting the magical spell that Dane had handed him. The bubbles suddenly burst, and Reed and Sue disappear, teleported back to Earth. Doom turns back to see that his prey is gone, but he seems unconcerned. Ha! That's the best you could manage, Richards? I left you alone for half a year, and in all that time, all you could learn is how to run and cower like a wounded dog? The Fantastic Four truly are useless, Doom scoffs. Meanwhile, Reed and Sue find themselves in Times Square, but they are shocked. For all around them, the message is being broadcast. Doom has come to Earth. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and be sure to subscribe as we cover the main story for the new Marvel event, One World Under Doom, as we see what Dr. Doom will do with his Sorcerer Supreme powers. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a like and leave a comment down below. I'm Dan with Comicstorian. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.